Hi. So today I wanted to talk about money and madness, and yet again, how people around you try to induce some beliefs that are not convenient, not good for you, in you. So, in the previous video, I have told you a bit about my three jobs that, money was the recurring thing because it was. In the first job, I had this debt collector agency calling me. In the second job, I cut my hand. I had to go to the hospital, and all of a sudden, in front of everyone, I couldn't pay for the service. I felt ashamed. And in the third job, actually, for 2 days, my money was blocked. I was exchanging the cards and my money was blocked. I couldn't access it and I didn't know what that was. So imagine you have your phone hacked and then for 2 days you cannot buy anything to eat. And all of a sudden, people around you, you haven't told them anything, but my colleagues from work were actually quite aware of what I was going through because two people wanted to give me some food, and the third one brought me the book and told me, "You gave me the book that costed €450." So I got the book back. And I didn't know if my money was blocked for 2 days or what was it. I just assumed I linked it to right degree with the hacked phone and just missing sources, missing money. So yeah. I mean, when you look at it, you have a lot of evidence in people quoting you, people laughing at you, people making references to your life, right? And people judging you for sending naked photos, although nobody approached that topic like very in an explicit way. So yeah, I believed that somebody took my money. And basically, no, it didn't happen. But I always had during that time in living in Holland, I had a problem with the cards and logging into the banking system. It never let me go through. So that I believe is something connected with energy work. Because, well, unfortunately, our computers and our phones can be affected by somebody else's energy too. So, during that time when I didn't know what was going on with my money, so I started intentionally to fast, and I went for 14 days or 12 days with no food. But I have to tell you, I drank a lot. At the beginning, I drank a lot of coffee at the beginning of the fast, then more juices. And my impression was that people around me, my colleagues from work, wanted me to have this coffee, like replenish and replenish. They would more often approach me to ask if I wanted some coffee. We had free, very tasty coffee at work. So with time, I've noticed when fasting that my body didn't need any more coffee, and I could tell which food was healthy and which food wasn't healthy. Um, and what I have to tell you that fasting helped me see through illusions. So fasting helps you see when people pretend in front of you, when people lie in front of you, and therefore I think it's very controversial, and people would come and often say, no, fasting is not good for you and it's gonna cause some issues. Well, that's not true. If nothing is working, if you feel like you have any medical condition, I think starting small, like with 2 days, 3 days, to see how it works, how you feel. Because that helps not only with diseases, it helps you see better when people lie to you. And it helps you to work with your third eye too. It helps you to have more control over your body, your responses. So my impression was people around me didn't want me to fast. And in that sense, you can see that if somebody influenced anyhow my banking account, if somebody made a trick, played a trick on me, then this shows that, it's actually worked against them. Yeah, but during that time, in one of the videos, I have already told you that I had a lot of people at work. It was a work based on, within tourism, of course. But my impression was like, yeah, like a lot of people. And all of a sudden, I didn't work on one side of the boat, but on the other side. So the boat used to go to a small village, and I had to go on the boat to work. And then when coming back on the boat, people there would be so many people that you barely had a place to sit down, and some of them also had to take um, standing seats, so to say. And yeah, and at the bus stop, it was my usual thing to take the bus to Purmerend. And at the bus stop, why do I mention people is because I used to use this bus stop for, I don't know, 2 months. And then all of a sudden, when I started to have more clients at work, then I started to see many, many, many more people at the bus stop, including one Arabic girl who I think was kind of gypsy. And the reason why I tell you so is because 2 years later, I saw the same girl or a very similar girl to this one in Krakow when giving flies for a club. So, yeah, my impression is that was the same girl. And the boy who was, her friend in Krakow, they were walking together. He was a taxi driver in Holland who gave me a lift, and he was a man whom I saw two more times in my life. Like, I had this very shameful experience of leaving the bathroom with no towel and no pants on, living on the ground floor and thinking nobody would see me when that boy saw me. Okay. And later, when working for a fast food restaurant, I was coming with gypsy cards in my pocket and thinking, oh, I have to get rid of those cards, but I would just buy cigarettes very quickly. And then I saw him; he was buying something in front of me, and yeah, he kept on staring at the point where I had my gypsy cards, which was like, whoa. Like, I had something in my pocket and nobody knew what that was, and yet that person kind of, um, had a good idea where to look. um, okay. So, I have also already told you about the fact that people were taking photos of my book, if it's at the library, or at the bar, or they would comment, they would approach me closely, and then a lady would say, oh, to other ladies, I didn't see what she wrote because it was written that way. And I'm like, hey, um, it wasn't funny. That at that time it wasn't funny for me, because if you get a lot of impetus, which you cannot understand, then it's not really funny. um, yeah. So I was looking in myself, and I was kept on wondering, so what have I done? And having a lot of things going on in my life, like people quoting me, and then people even, like all of a sudden having a lot of people around me in those places where I did not have a lot of people around me. And having a feeling of a hacked phone, and having to deal with money issues, and um, being treated in not fair ways, and being framed into theft, at least, depicting situations where, some money is missing, and I know I haven't taken that money. So that was a lot of emotional stress for me. And, also tourists would approach me and tell me that um, they wouldn't buy the tickets from me because I wasn't speaking Dutch. It happened to me too. So I was angry and I was going to the police, and therefore my manager bought a new phone so that I could easily contact her if there was no internet. So we could make it all work again. But that didn't convince me, although I was happy, that she finally tried to help me somehow at work. And what is interesting here is that I already experienced a lot of situations when there was no internet, and of course, each and every time I called, she always reacted, she always cared. And then all of a sudden, when you have all these impetus working on you, then when there is no internet, there is no sufficient help um, on the part of management. So yeah. So I wanted to go to the police, but from day to day, I also had no place to live. I had an argument with my landlord, who actually was my friend. We argued about the piggy bank, and I told him that, when my bank account was blocked, my money from the piggy bank was gone. And today I know it was totally not him, but it was gone, and there were only two people living in the house. So we argued about my money from the piggy bank, which was really an argument only about coins. It wasn't about large amounts. But um, it's it wasn't about large amounts, but it's about the circumstances I was in. I was worried about the money back then. Um, yeah. So when having no place to stay in, I stayed in a hostel for the night, but the hostel was too expensive for me. And when looking for a room, I had to call for a taxi, and I had plenty of things around me with me. And there was a period of taxi drivers just telling me stories like, oh, I know someone who used to rent to a girl, so maybe they would have a room. And they gave me their phone number. When I called them, it turned out that it wasn't um, they didn't have a room anymore. Yet another taxi driver told me a story about him and his son, that he would just check with his son. If his son agreed for renting the room, then he would do so. But he never responded, he never called me back. So um, my very first employer, the intermediate company that employed me, I called them, I worked with them, and I asked if I could rent a place in the room, and I was told yes. But then a few days went by, like 2 days, and I was told that I called them at weird times of the day and the room has been already given to someone. And that was a room with the job, because he told me, if you want to have the place in the room, you have to start working with us. And I told him I would have only the weekends because I already had a job. That was our deal. So giving away the room to somebody else was not. It's a weird argument. I don't know. But just people told me stories, they gave me their yes, and then all of a sudden, from day to day, you have no place to live. And I even called the place that takes you off from the streets. At least I was told by a colleague in the very first job that there is this Barca Foundation that takes you gathers you from the streets if you have, no place to live, no place to go. And a sure thing, I was walking to the places I used to live in, and I was looking for some other hostels, but it was connected with taxi drivers, and taxi drivers, they just charge me more money. And I had some comparison because twice I went to Amsterdam, for a party, so I had more or less a comparison. And then I decided to go back to Poland, but there was no bus to Poland, of course. So in the end, what I want to tell you here is that I paid for the bus to Germany in the end, but that was more expensive too. I mean, how do I know the ticket was more expensive? Is because two people in front of me paid less and I paid more. And I was like, well, hey, it's like showing to somebody that there are different prices for different people. Or it's about inducing psychological disorder in somebody. If people don't want to see your book because that book somehow threatens them, then they work environmentally. um, and I mean here people who actually have their intuition developed and they have their extrasensory perception developed, and they have some skills that most of us who easily undergo hypnosis do not. So, however that sounds to you, well, if you would like to learn more about the way the system works, about the way people induce in you some beliefs and some ideas that most of the time are not convenient for you, then please drop me a line at lkinga788 at gmail.com. And I'm still sending my free PDF of my book about gypsy magic, symbolism, and covert hypnosis, my book Piglet. And if you're curious, if you want to buy my course, Amelia, if you want to learn more about manipulation and the victims of sexual abuse and their identities, then you will find a link to that in the description of this video on my website, prosiaczek.weebly.com, and on my Instagram account. So, if you like this video, please hit the like button below. If you like this video, please share it with other people too. And yeah, that's it for today. Talk to you soon.